everyone, welcome to the next part of the Let's Talk. I let you guys vote on my poll on YouTube what topic comes next, and you guys decided toxicity is a huge one to talk about. But someone made the genius idea of having me discuss the runner-up option, which was why I love Hunter as well, so I'm gonna make this a 2-in-1. Possibly, we'll see. I'm thinking of making this a 2-in-1. So, I've got to set the scene of what I was like in my prime toxicity. That's to say, like, when I was most toxic. I was a thank you and you're on your own spammer, because I've been playing this game for a long time, so it kind of overlaps between the time thank you and you're on your own were here. I was a graffiti spammer, an emote spammer. I was a chair hitter. I used to slug people out if I hated them. I used to go into post-match and tell people that they were trash, that they suck, that they should quit, that they should give up, that they should just surrender on themselves and waste less of my time. I used to tell them to end themselves over this game. I used to, if they didn't reply to me in post-match and show me that they could see it, I used to add them to tell them that as well. I was probably one of the most toxic players I ever actually knew, and it's crazy now to see how much I've changed. Because now I can look back on that and say, hey, that was really disgusting of me. You know, like, I'm really ashamed of that. But I think it's important to talk about because toxicity is a huge issue in this game. So, with all of that context out of the way, now you can see just how bad my issue was. Let's talk about why I fell into that. It didn't start overnight. I was at a stage where I was comfortable with the game, kind of. I still had a lot of problems, but I kinda didn't care as much anymore about them, you know? I had no desire to work on myself anymore. I was a survivor main first, so this comes into that period of time, and then it does overlap into Hunter later. But I was at a point in survivor rank where I hit Mammoth like twice now, and I was really sick of the randoms I would get. And partly because I would see like my favorite content creators and streamers of the time, no longer favorite for a good reason, but I'm not going to name them because it's not my place to put them out like that. Because I saw them being toxic as well, they would graffiti spam and they would hit the chair and they would you're on your own and thank you spam. I started to pick that up as well because if they could do it, I could do it, right? And not just that, it wasn't only that, but also if my like rank randoms could thank you and you're on your own spam, I could do it as well because why should I care about the feelings of people who are going to hurt me anyway? Because I started to see it often enough that it would kind of like overwrite any good experience I had. If I had a match with good players and then another match with good players, but then one bad match with bad players, the one that would stick in my head would be the bad match. So I started to, because I saw bad matches occasionally enough, I started to take that into being who I was, and I started to become the bad player, because if everyone's going to treat me like this anyway, I might as well, you know? So that's how it started. It started very gradually and very slowly, like that. Over a long period of time, a lot of toxic players, you know, in my matches, and then I started to believe, well, what's the point anyway in being nice? No one else is nice. So I started to become toxic. I started to intentionally throw matches if they weren't going absolutely perfectly. I started to you're on your own, thank you spam. I started to graffiti and emote. I started to do all of that, but the post-match stuff that I mentioned did not come until quite a bit after, so we'll get to that soon. It was quite bad as well, because, yeah, I just didn't respect the other players, and I think as well, I had a lot of skill issue in myself that I just didn't want to address. All of this time that I was holding it above other people, that they had to be perfect or I would throw, I was never perfect myself, but I didn't want to address that. I didn't want to face the fact that I was just bad at the game, and I had no desire, as I said, to work on myself. So I continued to take it out on other people. You know, clearly this match went badly. Ignore everything I did. It must be your fault kind of believing, you know? And I can sit here now and say that was stupid, but at the time, I wholeheartedly believed that was justifiable. I believed with every fiber of my being that that was right, you know? These people will only learn if the match is completely lost, because if we win and we tie, all they're gonna learn is that they can get away with acting like that. I put myself in the mindset of some moral punisher. I started to believe that I had some kind of control and authority over these people. I didn't. But I gave myself the illusion of it by purposefully and definitely throwing any win and tie we could have had, which made me in turn even angrier, because we weren't winning or tying anymore, you know? Because I held the other players to such a high standard while also never letting us have a chance at redemption, because I didn't believe we deserved it. I'd mentally checked out long time ago, and so that's how it started. It started like that, and it snowballed into, well, that. It was not night and day. It took weeks and maybe even months to get to that stage. But as I mentioned, the post-match stuff started then. That didn't start until a little later, a couple months after, even then, because I started to see that a lot of other people, as the player base got larger with the game, a lot of people were coming into the game that were toxic, maybe because they'd already picked up these behaviors from the other games that they played, you know? But they would come into the game, they would make an account, and then they would be very furious in post-match, and again, because they were doing it, I started to justify it like that. Well, if they're gonna tell me that I'm trash and should give up, then why not, you know? Let me say some things back to them. That's how it started. Let me say things back to them. And then it stopped being about retaliating to people who'd already said things, and it started to become, I have a right to say this to them because it's my freedom of expression, it's my justification. They were bad, I have to tell them. But I never spared any politeness in it. Because, like I mentioned earlier, I wholeheartedly believed that these players did not deserve it. There was no such thing as mistakes at the time. I wholeheartedly did not believe mistakes were a thing. I didn't believe these players were making mistakes. Because I was throwing matches a lot, I started to believe that they were doing it as well. So, all of Toxicity, essentially, that I experienced in the first half a year, to like 3/4 of a year, that was all heavy projection of what I was doing. I used to put that belief onto other people. Well, they must be doing all the same things I'm doing to punish me, so I'm going to punish them back, you know? It was crazy acrobatics I did in my head. But even further than that, when I started to main Hunter, I got very angry easily. Because I wholeheartedly believed a lot of the time that I should have won when I shouldn't have. And there's many reasons for this. You know, I came from Survivor having a heavily inflated ego, straight into Hunter, a faction that requires you to be calm and not too prideful, otherwise you're going to underestimate the survivors you face and then never be ready for when they do things you don't expect, you know? But I didn't take that advice. I sat there and I wholeheartedly believed that the survivors would only win because of luck or because the game was sided to their favor, even in 2021 where it was not so. You know? It was crazy. It was actually crazy. I also, because the game is Hunter versus Survivor, and in global chat all the time they were fighting about Hunter faction, Survivor faction, which one sided more, which one's this, which one's that. I started to internalize that too. I started to believe that we really are Hunter against Survivor, and I have to treat the survivors as such. Never once thinking that they are my opponents that I should respect. I never held respect for them. And it's really, like, crazy. Even now, I'm sitting here, I'm like, what the hell was that? That was so crazy. And that was so disgusting as well. There's no way I could ever justify it now. But I internalized the role of being a hunter, or I internalized the role of being a survivor, and I hated the other faction because of it. I never played both factions at the same time, probably until around season 20. I've been here for a long time on this game. That's like 12 seasons or something like that. That I just never ever dual factioned. Because I strongly didn't ever want the two worlds to merge because it would break my vision of Hunter versus Survivor. So, I kept up that appearance. You know, I played Hunter, I was chair hitting, as I mentioned, I was slugging people out. If they emoted at me, if they did anything, I took it upon myself to punish them. Because, again, I wholeheartedly believed that they had wronged me, when in actuality, it was never that serious. I'm not saying that emoting isn't annoying, it's absolutely frustrating sometimes. But what I should have done was just ignored it. You know, but instead I decided to extend the matches by like 4 minutes, 5 minutes. Just because I couldn't let, like, you know, the agree emote go, you know, I couldn't let the confused emote go, you know? It was such a bother to me that I wasted everyone's time. And the worst part is, knowing now that even doing all of that didn't change a single thing. Those survivors are probably still doing those things to this day, if they haven't already quit the game, you know? But I just made the matches miserable for everyone, because I kind of hated everyone. Everyone was bad, everyone was this, everyone is out to get me, everyone hates themselves, everyone hates each other. Oh, this game is Survivor versus Hunter, we're meant to hate each other. No, we're not. No, we're not. That's dumb. I can sit here now and say that's dumb. So, with all that in mind, that's toxicity summarized in my experience. It did not start overnight, as I mentioned. So, what factors made it worse for me? I think it was content creation. Content creators in particular, and just because of the rise of things like TikTok and rage bait and stuff like that, and the way that streamers would speak about their opponents, and even now it's still a problem today. Again, I'm not going to name anyone, it's none of my business to. But there's streamers now who discredit the other faction's work into getting the wins that the other faction deserved, because they will attribute it to like no skill and things like that. And there will be a portion of their fan base who will see that now and internalize that. Every Dream Witch player, every Smiley Face player are no skill because they heard someone else say it first, who is quite notable in the community. And that's why now, having hindsight, I try to never speak about the other faction in that way, because I know that it's not true, one. And two, there will be a portion of my fan base who will internalize that and then carry that belief with them every time they see a player playing those characters or running certain traits. You know, Patroller is no skill, Warp is no skill, Blink is no skill. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with any of it. I don't want to say things I don't agree with, and I don't want people in my community to pick that up and run with it because I said it, you know? This is a responsibility I have to my community, and this is a responsibility I have to this fan base to not perpetuate these harmful ideas. But I would say that content creators who do not hold themselves to that responsibility are definitely an issue. And there's actually something recently, again, I will not try to name it too much. There's actually something recently in that calling toxic survivors out by name and such like that. That's another huge issue, because I think of it, you gotta think of it from this perspective, okay? Toxic survivors generally already hate themselves or hate other people. When you send a hate mob to them, and you do indirectly, as a content creator, it's my responsibility to make sure that no one in my matches receives that kind of treatment. That's why the names are all covered up. I would hate for like people watching my videos to go find those players and dog on them. It's not fair, that's not right. But there are content creators out there who don't do that, and the issue is when you do that to a toxic survivor, because they already are convinced that everyone hates them or they hate everyone and such like that, one of two things is going to happen, okay? You're either going to further push them into their belief that everyone hates them and they have a right to be toxic, because if everyone's going to treat them that badly anyway, what's the point in caring? Or you're straight up going to make them quit the game, which is also not what we want. We want people to come down from believing all of these harmful things and doing these harmful behaviors. We don't want to force people to quit the game. That's horrible. Because in my eyes, that makes you just as bad as the toxic player themselves. And I think as well, it would be very toxic of me as a content creator if I were to call these people out by name, because I would be knowingly sending people to go attack this person. How is that any different to if I were to just attack them myself? That is toxic. I consider that toxic. But I digress. Toxicity, I consider it to be part of this community. It's not a good part of this community, but it is a strong part of this community. Do I wish that I could do more to help people? Yes, I do. I wish that I could help everyone who felt as bad as I do, who just wants to find a way out of that thought process. I wish that I could help the people who have been hurt by toxic players, because it's a community that harms both sides. And I'm not saying that it's okay to be toxic and we should sympathize with toxic players. Absolutely not. Don't sympathize with the hand that bites you, you know? But I think it's important to recognize that toxicity harms everyone in this community. It harms the players who face it because they feel demotivated, they don't want to play anymore, and they might turn around like I did. And they might sit there and go, well, what's the point, and start engaging in toxic behavior as well. It harms the people who are toxic because they're stuck in a cycle and cannot see that kindness doesn't pay. And I'm not saying that like it's not worth it. What I mean to say is that it's completely free action that you can do without consequence or repercussion that benefits everyone. And actually, while I'm here, I want to tell a story of an experience I had in English chat recently that I think solidifies the mindset that this community kind of has. And it was me telling another player that kindness is free, and they responded to me and said, well, anger is as well. And like, yeah, it is, but you don't benefit from getting angry at another person like you do being kind with them, you know? And I think that that interaction entirely solidifies that this community is really harmed by these toxic behaviors. Whether that player was toxic or not is irrelevant, you know? Because I know for certain that they are sitting there with the belief that you could be kind, but anger is an option as well. Because of how hopeless this community feels because of toxic players. And it's not... I would never want to dismantle the players individually. I would always want to dismantle the mindset first. That's why, as I said, you don't see me calling them out by name. You see me calling out their action, because it's the action that is wrong, not the player. The player has their feelings and they'll react and they'll do whatever. That's gonna happen. That's called being a human being. But the action and the way that they respond is the problem, and that's why I call that out and why I bring attention to that. But I think it's hard, even now, because this community has been this way for so long, you know? I think one of the first things that would need to change is that we would need to see a vast difference in attitude to the content that is being made and pushed out towards people. The more that people see things like rage bait, the more hopeless this community feels, because it's not helpful to anyone. The only person that benefits from rage bait is the person who makes it and gets tons of views. No one sits there and is learning anything. No one is entertained by it, really. You know, I'm a huge supporter for small creators who are actually trying to be educational and informative. I would love to someday make a video. God forbid if I ever get large, I would love to make a video that is dedicated to spreading awareness to some of the smaller content creators who do deserve your time and attention. Because I strongly believe in giving back to this community, and I want to see the type of content that is made, particularly on TikTok, to shift back to a more positive sphere of influence. It's bad though, it's really bad. God, I almost want to cry. It's been so long in this community, and it's really hard to have sat here for almost 6 years and nothing has changed, really, ever. We are as toxic, if not more, than before. And I said this in some of my comments, actually, that toxicity is kind of like a disease. It spreads fast. It doesn't take much, and it spreads. If you start becoming toxic, the players that you interact with, a good chance is some of them will start becoming toxic as well. That's why I fell into it so easily, because I saw other people doing it. I saw other people doing it to me, I saw other content creators doing it, and I started to wholeheartedly believe that it was completely justified. Because if I could justify it, then I could do it, right? I looked for an excuse to be toxic because I felt frustrated. I felt angry that people weren't listening to me as a low tier about any of my opinions on the game. I felt angry that people weren't taking me seriously in matches when I tried to suggest advice. I felt angry that I would fail so badly and that no one would try and help me with some advice either, you know? I felt angry that I would lose all the time and not understand why. I felt angry that I would sometimes win even when I didn't feel it was deserved. I felt angry that my randoms just didn't know what they were doing, even though they were completely randoms. It wasn't their fault. There was so much problems that led to me becoming toxic. And it's so easy for someone else to fall down that pipeline. Do I think it's good to be toxic? No. Some of the worst moments I've ever had on this game were when I was a toxic player. I wholeheartedly believe that I was the most miserable version of myself when I was toxic. I would never, ever sacrifice what I have now to become what I was before. I am the happiest I've ever been. I'm thriving through Hunter rank only because I have changed myself and my attitude. When you do that wholeheartedly, your game becomes so much clearer to see. You can see your mistakes so much easier because you're looking for them. When you're locked in a toxic survivor, toxic hunter mindset, you're not looking for your mistakes anymore because you're looking for someone else to blame. And that's a huge part of toxicity. Never taking accountability. It's not good. It's not right. It is not okay to sit there and blame everything on your teammates or on the survivors. Oh, this game's survivor-sided, so it's gonna lose anyway. No. Is the game survivor-sided? Yes, I don't deny that for a second. But I don't think a team of randoms is something that is going to have hindered your game just because the survivors have things in place to help them. I would rather look at what I could have done differently to improve my outcome. Even if you might not have ever won. There are chances you may not have ever won that match, but if you can even find places of weakness at all, that's gonna help you in the long run. But that's something as a survivor, as a hunter, toxic, that I never did because I wholeheartedly looked for someone else to blame. That's why I got hard stuck in that mindset for so long. I have done so much that I can think of to try and turn around. I have... Bless me. I've tried to spread good message. I've tried to be that positive content creator. I never actually even intended to become a content creator. It kind of surprised me that my channel got any traction at all. So it's been a little strange to adjust to that, but I've tried to be that positive voice now among so many negative voice. And what did I say? I said something to someone the other day. I said that this community is kind of like a lot of miserable people gathered in one. I just wholeheartedly believe, you know, this community, it feels so sad because there's been a lot of broken promises by netties. There's been a lot of tension, particularly frustration with like the global servers to the China servers because of the unfair treatment and such like that, and there's a lot of hopelessness in this community, and I do feel really bad. I wish I could do more. But what I was saying to this person was that this community kind of feels like a lot of frowns and sadness, but if one person smiles, it's a rebellion. If other people smile, it's a contagion. You know? all I ever want is to be able to have that positive influence, because I know how bad it feels to be that negative side of things. If I can help even a little bit, I'll be more than happy, but that's all I want out of anything, my platform, anything, literally anything, day-to-day interactions with people. That doesn't change. When the cameras are off, it doesn't change. I try to keep myself as polite as possible as I can, because I don't know what the other players are going through. I don't know what kind of lives they have at home, if they even have a home. I don't know what kind of matches they've had on that day. It's not fair of me to ever judge anyone. So I try to do the best I can to always accommodate them. Because you never know what the other person's going through. Even if the toxic players are horrible to me, I never try to make it a point to be horrible and toxic back, and you guys can have seen that through my videos as well. My more recent ones in particular, where I have been able to show post-match, I've tried to turn it into an educational moment for the toxic player and for everyone else. You know, because as I mentioned, one of the most frustrating things for me when I was toxic was never knowing what I could have done differently, because why did our match fail? You know, why does every match I'm in fail? Well, the problem might have been you, but here's the things that could have changed, you know? Okay, so with all that conversation out the way, I want to next discuss why I love the Hunter faction so much, even despite having been a toxic player, recovered, and still experiencing toxicity from others. What keeps me going? Why do I prefer to Survivor, you know, all of those kind of things. So I can answer this quite quickly, but I'm gonna try and go into more detail, because it might be hard for some people to understand my thoughts unless I elaborate, okay? To summarize, I like that I am responsible for what I do in Hunter, solely. If I lose, generally I can look back and see all the things I did wrong a lot easier than in Survivor. Because in Survivor, and this is what people like about Survivor, there's plausible deniability. You know, it's never really ever completely your fault. Usually there's a combination of mistakes made by others as well, so it doesn't feel that bad when you lose. Because you can admit that, yeah, the team probably wasn't good, or maybe you did perform negatively, but it was just unlucky, or that the hunter was really good. As a hunter main, I don't have that same luxury, because my mistakes are entirely my fault. If I miss a blink, if I take too long to get someone down, it's usually entirely my fault. Even if it is a genuine mistake, but it's something to be addressed, you know? And that's what I like about Hunter. It's what a lot of people don't like about Hunter, is all that pressure that you have to perform almost perfectly to win. But I kind of like that because it kind of encourages me at all times to keep working and doing the best that I can. Whereas Survivor, if you hit a loss streak in Survivor, you keep going and you never actually really know when to stop. I've had it before when I was Survivor rank, where I would just keep going again and again and again after a loss and end up like 2 tiers below where I was before. But with Hunter, it's taught me to have a point to stop, to realize, hey, I need to step back and actually look what I'm doing. It's given me that freedom to be able to see when I need to stop, when I need to start thinking and working around my mistakes. So I like to have the responsibility that Hunter gives me. I also like about Hunter that I have more control over my matches. And this kind of feeds into the last point a little bit. The outcomes are my choice. You know, if I play super well, I'm probably going to get quite a good outcome. If I play super poorly, I'm probably going to get an outcome that reflects that. Does that mean that miracles are impossible? Absolutely not. I have won before where I really didn't deserve to, and I've lost before where I wholeheartedly believe I shouldn't have. But they're a lot less likely. With Survivor, anyone can throw your match, or you can throw someone else's match, and anything can happen in Survivor, you know? the Cypher suddenly pops out of nowhere and it maybe means that your teammate gets eliminated when they probably couldn't have, you know? But with Hunter, there's a lot less factors like that to worry about, I find. Because each game I have a lot more control over. I get to choose who I want to chase. I get to choose who I want to bring to what comps, because I can see them, but they can't see me. I can choose what build I want to run, which you can do in Survivor anyway, but in Survivor it's a complete, blackout. You don't know who you're going to face. You don't know what your teammates are going to play often if you're not a 4-man team comp, you know? But with Hunter, you don't have those worries. Your worries are completely different, and the things that we have to worry about as Hunter, things like Cypher machines, how fast we get an elimination. You know, if we're carrying Blink or Excitement, then we've got to change our pathing and our chase strategy to make sure that we get that down quickly. You know, those things aren't really scary to me like it is to maybe some other people, so that's why I like Hunter. I have a lot of freedom with it. And as well, I feel like some of the Hunter skills are vastly different from each other, you know? Like, Blood Queen is so far different from Naiad, and Naiad is so far different from Gisa, and Gisa is so far different from Clerk, and Clerk is so far different from Hullabaloo. You know? And Hullabaloo is so much different from Ivy, and Ivy is so much different from, Lachino. There's a lot of diversity in the Hunter skills that I really like. But with Survivor, generally their skills are pretty similar, you know? Doctor is a healer, Psychologist is a healer, Barmaid is a healer, they all have quite similar skills to each other. Do they manifest in different ways? Yes. Do you have to play each of them differently? Yes. But for the most part, they're quite similar, you know? Sorry, I'm trying to think. There's a lot of stunners, so Prospector, Enchantress kind of manifest in very similar ways. Cowboy is quite similar to Batter, who's quite similar to Forward. I feel like there's a lot less diversity, even though the skills are different. And with Hunter, my skills often can fix my own mistakes. So if I miss a blink, quite more often than not, I can just mirror them down anyway in a couple seconds after, even though I still have used my blink and failed it. I can often save myself, whereas in Survivor, if I'm like Antikyrian and I miss my swing, that can be really detrimental. Or if I'm like a Prospector and I reset attack recovery after I've just been hit, that can be really fatal to a game, you know? So I think those are all the reasons I prefer Hunter. It's more fun, in my opinion. Like, I get to chase the survivors and I get to do things like mind gaming, which you get to do it as Survivor, but you don't have nearly as much control over it as you do for Hunter, because I'm the one who can deal the damage, not them, so I can choose what pallets I want to go through safely and which ones I want to swing through. And I think that's what excites me about Hunter, and I don't have that with Survivor, because the idea of being chased just is not nearly as appealing to me. It takes a lot of discipline to learn Hunter, and it takes a lot of discipline to be able to carry on. And even with today's survivors, with like Wendy and Fire Lady, it's getting a lot harder to play the older characters with newer characters like that and Knight and stuff like that. So I'm kind of having to learn and discipline myself even now, even as someone who's been playing Hunter for over 20 seasons now. I'm still learning things and disciplining myself, whereas if I hop into Survivor, I have to count on my teammates and on myself to just, maintain an acceptable-ish level through the game so that we don't lose. And there's no way I can rely on them, because I have no guarantee that they're gonna do well, or even that I'm gonna do well. And this is another thing actually I haven't talked about yet, but survivor anxiety is something that I am a huge subject to. It almost, my I call it a disliking. It's not a disliking, but my somewhat fear of the Survivor faction is I'm terrified to let the other guys down. Not that they're gonna be toxic or anything, I'm just terrified to be a disappointment. And again, it's not a good way to think, but the good thing is no one has to force me to play Survivor. I play it on my own terms, very rarely with friends, but for the most part, I am a hunter main falling through, you know? I've made it where I wanted to with Survivor, I don't want to go further with that, but Hunter is just, as I said, so much more fun, so much more free in my opinion. Because, as I said, you have all that control over the game, you have all that choice as well. Like, as I said, if I want to chase like Prisoner first, or if I want to chase Prospector, I get to. If I want to... I don't know, if I want to pick what areas I want to chase or even spawn in, and then I get to pick what hunter I want to use, and their skills are so good, and I love the designs as well. Like, hunter designs are some of the coolest parts of IDV in my opinion. Even with the new hunter is incredible looking, and I cannot wait to get her and play her. I cannot express how excited I am every day when I log on to play Hunter, because I wouldn't be waking up nearly as early as I do every day if it was not for Hunter rank. I log on, I wake up, I open my eyes, I run to my PC, I turn it on, I set up all my recordings so that I've got the Mary ranked match to upload. And then I just do it, and then afterwards I'll talk in the global chat for a little bit, because I like to talk to people in the global chat, and then I'll go into some quick match maybe. Where I'll just continue using hunters I'm already good at to, you know, improve even more. Or I'll use hunters that I'm not so good at, or hunters that I rarely used before, you know? And sometimes I'll turn it into content, but sometimes it's just genuinely practice on the side because it's fun for me. I really cannot exaggerate how much I love to play Hunter. It is my favorite mode. My favorite mode in this game is Hunter rank specifically. But next up is Hunter Quick Match, you know? I love Hunter so much. I think it has genuinely almost changed my life for the better. That's really dramatic, I'm sure, but I probably would have quit this game a while ago had I not become a Hunter main, because Survivor, I was playing it so much and I just wasn't having fun anymore. And I got over my fear of playing Hunter. So I decided I was going to get better at it, and I wanted to master the Hunter faction. I never intended to stop with Mary. I want to get better with other hunters, and I want to master them as well, and then I want to continue it until I'm good at as many hunters as I deem satisfactory. I would love to get good at Ivy, I would love to get better at Naiad, I would love to get good at Gisa, I would love to get better with Wax Artist, you know? But there are so many other hunters. I would love to try out Undead for a while. I would love to get good at Hullabaloo. I would really enjoy the thought of getting good at Goatman. There's a lot out there, and even now I'm so excited for the new hunter. I want her out. I want to use her. I'm so sad that I have to wait for her. But it's gonna be really exciting, you know? And I just cannot wait for that all to happen. I think I've got like 5,500 inspirations saved up for the next time they will release a Hunter S tier in Essences. Hopefully it'll be like for a hunter I use, otherwise I'll have to miss out and keep waiting, but that's how much I love the Hunter faction. I've saved up that much over a long time. You know? I think it's fun, and even despite the toxic survivors, I don't take them seriously because I have confidence in my skill. I know that I'm a good player. I don't need them to tell me what they think of me. I don't care. I know that I am a good player. I know that when I play with my full effort put into every match because I want to try the best that I can. Namely because the survivors deserve to have the best part of me. You know, they don't deserve to have a match where I try, you know, only half try. That's not fair on them, you know? I believe that every match I should give my all, you know? And that's what I try to do. And it's because I'm so passionate about Hunter, you know? And it's kind of like my entire channel now as well is Hunter. Predominantly Mary, I won't deny. Most of you probably found me through my Mary rank. But my entire channel has always been Hunter. Even from the very start, my first Hunter rank was a Dream Witch match. You know? It's incredible. And I never have so much fun playing Survivor. I've got a few Survivor gameplay on this channel, but not much. Because that's just how much I love Hunter more. It's not that I don't like Survivor. I just have a really strong preference, if that makes sense. And even back when I was playing Joseph, or I went early B-Badge for Mary all the way back 20 seasons ago, even when I would lose, I used to have bad anger issue, get frustrated, you know, break stuff. But even then, I would log on and continue because I loved Hunter so much, I genuinely couldn't put it down. I couldn't stop myself. I wanted to work towards badges and higher rank, and the first time I made it to Manticore, I actually cried because I was so proud of myself, and I think I have it screenshotted as well. But I was so proud of myself. And it was like, at the time, it was like the biggest achievement for me. And now I've been Manticore, like, what, 4 times now? But it was like the biggest achievement for me. And the second time I hit Manticore, when I was A-Badge Dream Witch, I was so proud of myself to have made it to Manticore with a Hunter that wasn't Mary. And what I mean by that was I didn't quit Mary, but I put Dream Witch first, you know? So I was really proud that I could make it to Manticore with another Hunter, even though my win rate was lower, because I'd only been using Dream Witch for a singular season by that point in time, you know? It took me 1 season to get good enough with Dream Witch to make it to Manticore, and to have an A-Badge. And I was so proud of myself, you know? I never had that kind of happiness when I got Survivor badges. When I had my Entomologist badge, I wasn't celebrating nearly as hard. It just, you know, it's not to say Survivor badges aren't impressive, they just weren't impressive for me when I got them, you know? But I know I'm friends with plenty of people that, you know, do jump and cheer and scream with excitement when they get their badge. And I'm really proud of them, I'm really happy for them. But that was never me. When I got my Perfumer C badge, I didn't feel a thing. When I got my Entomologist C badge, I didn't feel a thing. You know? And I wish that I could have had that same excitement for Survivor badges as I do for Hunter. And I think that's why the Survivor grind just isn't worth it for me. I would never, I don't think, ever care to go to high tier as Survivor. I think just because I don't have nearly as much fun, but for Hunter it's kind of like, okay, you know, I play all my matches to the best of my ability, I know what to expect because I do this often, but I'm not getting bored of it. I've been doing it for 3-4 years now. I'm not getting bored. You know, I really like Hunter, and I think I'm gonna really like Hunter for a long time after this as well. Which is funny because I've had people tell me, like high tier, tell me that I'm gonna hate Hunter by the end of like making it to Dragon. And it feels really weird to me. I know they're trying to be helpful to a degree, but it feels really weird to me that they would put me down like that because I just can't see it now. Maybe my opinion will change when I make it to Dragon, I don't know. But I'm really, I can't hold on to the fact that I'm just really hopeful and enthusiastic about it, you know? Maybe I will genuinely despise Hunter when I make it to Dragon. But right now, while I still believe in it, I want to try, you know? That's how I feel about the Hunter faction. It's a lot of fun, it gives me a lot of control over my matches, and my responsibility is entirely on me. If I perform poorly, that's my fault. I've got no one to blame for that, and it means that I can make improvements that I need to a lot easier because I can see a lot easier what I need to improve. I have more diversity in the characters I can play and their skills. One thing I wish netties would do is make them cheaper, for the love of God. 4,500 and what is it, 56, 68 clues every time I want a new hunter is crazy. And yeah, I could spend echoes, I do have a job and stuff like that, but I would prefer not to, you know? It's just, yeah, I really like Hunter. I think I can't understand why other people do. I can a little bit, but not really. Because I used to be the same way as well, I guess. I used to be terrified of Hunter. I used to hate Hunter. I used to think Hunter faction was so stressful. It used to make me angry, but I kind of just pushed through it all. And then one day it became like a beacon of light, you know? I think I really, really like Hunter so much more than Survivor. I think that, because I've made it like part of my daily routine as well. I said about the uploads, but I also have like an entire routine. I'm gonna tell you it. As I said, I wake up, I come to my PC, I log on. Sometimes if I have time, if I wake up early enough, I will go downstairs, I'll make hot chocolate. I'll put it on my desk, always with 2 sugars. And it would just sit on my desk, on a mug, well, in a mug. Because my desk is like double layered. I might take a picture of my desk so you guys know what I'm on about. But it's got like a shelf. And I put it on the shelf. My monitor also sits on the shelf but a little further down. Or I'll have a can of Pepsi. I put warm socks on, fluffy socks, because my feet are very cold in the morning. And they hurt if I'm not wearing fluffy socks. Anyway, I sit down, I log on, I do my dice, and then I go straight into rank. And that is my entire routine. That's my whole morning. I get I get breakfast after rank. Or maybe after the first upload, some days. But it depends when I start feeling hungry. But I'll get breakfast after rank, and that's generally how I do it. I'll open my comments, I'll read through my comments, reply to my comments, and then continue playing Hunter. I really love Hunter. It is like literally part of my everyday. I don't know what I would do if NetEase suddenly deleted the Hunter faction or reworked it dramatically. I think I would be really sad. Yeah, I think I would be really sad. Anyway, I hope that is insightful or helpful to some people. I think part of my love for Hunter also comes from how used to it I am now. When you're not used to doing it often, it is scary, but you know, to a certain degree, things that you encounter that usually would stress you out when you're newer to it, they're my routine now. They're also part of my day-to-day experience, you know? Like, I remember some of the comments under my video were talking about how calm I was when I was facing harasser. And it's like, because I see that every day, right? So I'm not fazed by it. Like a forward, a prospector, a batter, they don't scare me. Actually, in some of my videos, regular viewers might have noticed I don't even bring excitement sometimes if there's like an Antiquarian and an Enchantress, or an Antiquarian and a Prospector, because I've learned to counter it without excitement. I've learned to counter it with Blink, for example, or Patroller. Honestly, once you face it a lot, you get really used to it, you know? And it doesn't scare you anymore. And actually, the more you face it, the more you learn how to counter it, you know? Like, I know that if Prospector's got a magnet on me, sometimes if I am able to approach him quick enough, I can charge hit and he will reset my attack recovery sometimes. Or other times, if I want to guarantee he will reset attack recovery, I can blink onto him when he's got a magnet on me. And it'll count the swing because I'm suddenly in his range and he's in my hitbox, but it'll still let the magnet go through, so he'll just push me back, or towards him even sometimes. And I can get a second hit very, very quickly, either with a mirror or just by chasing him linear. And that can be done with an Enchantress as well, or a Prisoner, or just about anyone really. It's a little harder with like Batter because the timing has to be absolutely perfect. And with forward, I don't even bring excitement for him sometimes because if I can hear his football, usually I can just turn around and swing and it will probably hit him. As you get higher tier, they tend to predict that because they try to bait out your excitement. And if you swing, then they'll know that you don't have excitement generally. So what I've seen some people do, and this is like mind gaming, right? Kind of, almost. I don't know what to call this. But I've seen some high tier who have excitement will swing first. When the forward is confident, quote unquote, that they don't have excitement, then they'll use excitement and get a free hit. So I have seen that before as well. But again, these are all things that you learn only when you're encountering them often. So I don't get stressed really. I mean, have I had matches where I wanted to give up? Yes, I had one very recently actually where I just kept opening the menu every half a minute or so to check if surrender was up. You know, because that match was really stressful, but was it out of my control as well? Yes, because I had constant red ping and the survivors were faster than me. There was no way ever that I was going to be able to chase the survivor I wanted to, and then even after that, there was a forward, and I did not have excitement. There was no way I was ever going to get them on chair, and it made it to one cipher remaining. I didn't have a single chair just because my chase was so slow because of red ping. It was bad, it was really bad. But those kind of moments are so rare for me, so it doesn't put me off the Hunter faction at all. You know? Yeah, anyway, that's all my thoughts. If I continue going on now, this video is gonna be an hour long. I don't want it to be an hour long. That's all of my thoughts though. Thank you for listening. Oh, and before I forget, just like the last one, if you have any ideas, experiences that you want to share, you are more than welcome to share your thoughts and such, and do not worry about long comments as well, by the way. A lot of people sent very long comments and then were apologizing for it, but guys, honestly, when I'm not uploading videos and editing videos, I am usually just sitting in my room or playing IDV. I promise I have the time to read them all, it's okay. I really like long comments actually because they force me to sit and do something. So please don't apologize for long messages and comments, it's completely okay with me. Yeah, but feel free to share your thoughts and stuff if you have any, and thank you very much.